Versatile, vibrant, noisy, bizarre. That's the world of Africa's frogs. Africa boasts a vast range of frogs, from some of the world's biggest, weighing as much as a small dog, to fingernail-sized rainforest miniatures, and anything in between. There was once a king who sensed his life was nearly over. He couldn't decide which of his children should have his crown, but he'd narrowed it down to a choice of two: frog and lizard. So he decided to hold a feast at the lake. The son that arrived first at the party should inherit his kingdom. Preparations for the feast were intense. The bees brought honey. The ants carried in anything they could find. When Lizard received his invitation, he danced in delight at what he thought would be an easy victory. Off he raced immediately. Frog was a slower creature altogether, but what he lacked in speed, he made up for in brains. He knew what would slow his rival: rain. So he sang a song to the clouds that was so sad they soon grew dark, and heavy rain fell. Lizard ran for the nearest rock and hid there till it stopped. So Frog arrived first at the party and was crowned king. And ever since, when people hear Frog sing, they know it means rain. Reality is very different from myth. Frogs can't drum up rain, but they've done very well in their two kingdoms of land and water for the last 200 million years. Frogs are animals streamlined to swim, jump and hop, with very big mouths, all the better to eat prey. Some mouths are as big as the head. A frog's ear is a thin, flat piece of skin stretched over a ring of cartilage. It looks like a small coin. Its ears lie just behind its pop eyes, which in some species have horizontal pupils. While the eyes of other frog species have vertical pupils. Eyes and mouth are so important, the parts of the brain that look after them are particularly well developed. Back legs are usually longer than front and catapult the frog into action. Shoulders and wrists absorb most of the shock of landing. Fingers and toes are shaped to suit the individual home. The brown-backed tree frog has small adhesive pads on its toes to help it scale branches. The Plot Anna, or African clawed toad, is a squashed-looking creature with back feet like outsized divers' flippers. Unique in the world of frogs, these feet have claws for getting a better grip on food, mud and slippery weeds. Along this streamlined creature's flanks lie lateral line organs that detect and locate prey. These organs also help the toad orient itself in murky and moving water. A frog's only covering is skin, and it's amazing stuff. This semi-permeable membrane breathes, feels, even drinks. So how can a frog possibly survive in a desert? The desert rain frog's skin is ultra-absorbent and can soak up mere droplets of dew on sand. Like desert plants, this frog makes extremely efficient use of the smallest amount of water available. Toads are actually frogs, with a few differences. Most people think toads are warty and frogs are smooth, but not always. This is an African bullfrog. And this less warty creature is a guttural toad. Generally speaking, toads are land-based, have rounder noses, and are wartier. Frog voices swell in the night chorus, the sound of the mating season. The choir is strictly male, basses, baritones, tenors. It all depends on species and size. Only the males call, advertising their territories, and the females are drawn to them. This female greater leaf-folding frog has tuned in to a nearby caller. And off she hops to find him, only to run smack into a silent hidden male with no territory. The non-calling male promptly ambushes her and clasps her to him in the mating position. The territorial male sees the pair and sets off to try and snatch the female away, but can't. Another male has seen the female, who seems to want to reverse the roles. In this wrestling match, there are no penalties for unsporting behavior. Kicking is quite acceptable, but doesn't always work. The territorial male makes a last attempt to claim the female, but it's no good. The clear winner is the silent male who positioned himself strategically. He saved his energy, let the calling male do the work, then snatched his prize. The male greater leaf-folding frog clasps the female firmly so their cloacas touch. These are openings at the base of the spine where eggs and sperm emerge. As she lays, he'll cover her eggs with sperm. Greater leaf-folding frogs lay their eggs not in water, but on reeds, in homemade nurseries, made by folding leaves in half and gluing the edges together with jelly supplied by the female. They work their way steadily up the leaf, gluing, laying, fertilizing, shaping a green ice cream cone with a frog spawn filling. If the female has eggs left to lay after filling this nursery, the pair will make another. They can make several nurseries in one night. Frog eggs need to be kept moist if they're to survive, and a leaf cocoon does just that. A few days later, the eggs have hatched. The tadpoles still haven't been anywhere near water, but they soon will, because it's dangerous wriggling away in full view of hungry passers-by, though a predator might be more likely to snap up the nearby adult. It's an unusual birthplace, and the tadpoles are temporarily well stuck to it. Bits of leftover egg jelly fasten them in this gravity-defying position. A few more Houdini-like wriggles, and they should be able to break free. Now they're coming unstuck. Time for splashdown. Fat, round rain frogs make very odd couples. This female's waistline is too generous for the small male to embrace. His solution is to glue himself in place with a powerful adhesive. It's a sticky glue that doesn't dissolve in water, so even if it pours, they won't come unstuck. And they might be glued together for 3 days. Rain frogs are burrowers. They lay their eggs in underground chambers where predators can't see them. A meal on wings flutters right by. This will test the female's concentration and her priorities. Can she manage 2 things at once? No problem. Without a break in her dig, out flicks her sticky tongue to catch the moth. Digging and manufacturing eggs is a big drain on her energy, so every meal counts. There's one African frog that lays its eggs in a very strange place, up a tree. Ground predators can't reach them, but it's a dry place for eggs. So how do they stay moist? This is the answer. Foam, a concoction whipped up by the female foam nest frog from a special mucus. Every frog in this huddle is male, and each elbows and shoves for a scarce commodity, a female foam nest frog. It may take the female nearly 7 hours to complete her frothy nursery, so she has to escape regularly to climb down and soak in the water below in order to make more mucus for it. And each time she returns, she's subjected to the same frog fight. In this competitive market, males increase their individual chance of fertilizing her eggs by producing large quantities of sperm. Their testes are 8% of their body weight. 4 to 6 days later, this egg and foam whip will disintegrate, and partially developed tadpoles tumble to the water. Of all the world's animals, frogs virtually lead the field in a variety of ways of reproducing and raising young, which ranges from the lay it and leave parents to a tiny minority who actively look after eggs and tadpoles. Like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly, the change from tadpole to frog is a true metamorphosis. Amphibians are the only 4-legged animals that make such a huge leap from one shape to another. A tadpole has a tail, rudimentary external gills, and a small mouth when it first hatches. That quickly changes. Back legs soon appear. The front legs develop inside the gill chamber and grow later. Hormones from thyroid and pituitary glands dictate the tadpole's transformation, the same glands that help turn a human child into an adult. Now the tadpole has front legs, longer back legs, and a tail that's steadily being absorbed into its body. Internal gills are replacing external gills. A tiny new frog will soon hop out, and if it's male, it'll eventually become a member of the choir. Frogs have several ways of getting around: jumping, climbing, hopping, and swimming. No one knows for sure what first made a frog jump. Perhaps it was the need to leap to safety. Hind limbs and muscles create a lever system that catapults the frog into the air. A scarlet flash might confuse a bird, but snakes pick up on movement, so it's best to freeze. Some frogs are walkers. The rare banded rubber frog walks tall, as if on hot coals. It looks like one too. However, most frogs are hoppers and swimmers with their own unique style, the kind of strong back leg kick of breaststroke. A frog's hind leg muscles are more powerful than almost any other animal's. Some frogs are skilled mountaineers. Scaling vertical rocks is a standard ghost frog trick. Adhesive toe pads help it grip impossible-looking surfaces, slime-covered, slippery, and always wet. These extremely rare frogs only live in cold, fast-flowing mountain streams in a few locations in South Africa, including Table Mountain. It seems Africa's frogs have evolved efficient ways of coming to grips with all sorts of unusual homes. An ideal frog home is wet, with enough external heat to warm a cold-blooded body, but not too much. A hot desert coastline does not seem a good place for a frog. In the extreme northwest of Namaqualand, fog provides the only moisture. It rolls in over the dunes from the cold Atlantic and dampens the sand, to create acceptable living conditions for one remarkable frog. The desert rain frog stays below the sand during the day, but at night when it's cooler, it surfaces to go about its business. Round as a puffball, with stubby little legs, this frog's shape is designed to minimize water loss, and that's only one of its special adaptations. As anyone knows, walking on sand is difficult, but this frog goes like a small dune buggy. Broad, flat digits on its front feet and tough, thick webbing on its back give it four-wheel drive traction. Sand in the eye irritates anyone, but the winds that blow it would quickly dry out this small mobile water bottle. Wind kills as quickly as sun. So at the first whisper, the frog digs down into the sand using small bony tubercles on each heel, its very own shovels. Thanks to the fog from the ocean and its ability to conserve liquid, the desert rain frog can stay underground for several months without drying out. In no time, it's gone, buried in the damp subsurface, which is its lifeline. South Africa's northern Cape is also arid. It's here that the marbled rubber frog lives, in a place that's hotter and drier even than the Makwaland's coast. But this frog has its own way of not becoming a mummified husk. Cracks in the rock allow it to escape not only the hot sun, but possible enemies. A bird of prey's beak is the wrong shape to winkle the frog out, though it probably wouldn't, because the frog's colors mean it's poisonous. Specialized skin cells create these tones, absorbing or reflecting the colors imprisoned in white light like hundreds of tiny mirrors. This is the best of all frog worlds, a pond or a lake full of life, plenty to eat, but also a good helping of predators. Here it pays to be well disguised and well camouflaged. The African clawed toad lives almost entirely in the water. It usually keeps to one pool, unless heavy rains give it a chance to leave and colonize others. An active and a passive hunter, it can lie low and wait for prey to pass by. Some may think it's just a shady rock, but this rock is alive and alert. Insects that fall on the surface are the main prey, but anything that comes too close is worth a try. The toad's lateral line sense organs are also constantly alert to movement. They're just one of this strange creature's adaptations to life underwater. Others include no external eardrum, no movable eyelids, and no tongue. In fact, some of its features are quite fishy. When it comes to swallowing what it's caught, the toad makes up for its lack of tongue by using fingers, like forks or chopsticks, to stuff the food down. Most frogs avoid the sun, but the foam nest frog basks without a care. It doesn't overheat because its pale skin reflects light and warmth. But at night or in the cold, it changes color dramatically, going grayish-brown to trap warmth. Dark pigments in the frog's skin expand or contract in response to light, and the color changes regulate its temperature like a built-in thermostat. This small tropical reed frog has adhesive discs on its digits. They secrete a mucus, so the frog can move confidently on smooth, bendy reeds. This frog's green color comes from blue light hitting yellow cells in its skin, two primary colors making a secondary. It's excellent camouflage, and blending with the wallpaper keeps a frog safe in its natural home. Over 360 million years ago, the ancestors of land vertebrates emerged from the sea. The first four-legged animals were ready for life above water, as they had several of the features needed. Aquatic Ichthyostega was a bottom dweller that crawled around swampy lakes on stubby legs. It had a tail with a long dorsal fin and gills to extract oxygen. It may also have had rudimentary lungs, was probably slow-moving, and roughly the size of a large domestic cat. Although it was not the direct ancestor of today's amphibians, newts and salamanders lead a similar lifestyle to Ichthyostega, moving slowly around the edges of ponds. A time of rapid evolution followed the appearance of those first four-legged animals. For the next 210 million years, the ancient amphibians thrived. Among them were the Disaurophoids, probably the ancestors of frogs. Though small for their time, they are giant compared to modern frogs. Some were a meter long. The earliest known frog-like animal was Triadobatrachus. Its tail was small. It was probably not a jumper or hopper, and it was the size of today's frogs, with their wide, flat skull. Design suited lifestyle so well that these amphibians had little reason to change over time. It was a versatile design too, since frogs have colonized almost every single landmass. A frog will swallow almost anything live on offer: insects, spiders, snails, slugs, and earthworms. Size seems the only limiting factor. Strangely, some frogs use their eyes to help swallow. With each mouthful, they blink. With each blink, the eyeballs press into the roof of the mouth, and this helps the tongue get the food down. Frogs have a blind spot right in front of them. If prey is in the blind spot, it may escape, but it'll be seen if the frog turns its head. A worm, like a piece of spaghetti, takes a moment or two to size up. Can it all go in? If it fits, it can be swallowed, so the bigger the mouth, the bigger the prey the frog can eat. Many frogs actively hunt. See it and seize it is their feeding strategy. Most frogs have a tongue like sticky flypaper, which whips out at speed. The termites won't know what hit them. A few strays lead the banded rubber frog to the real horde round the corner in the termite mound. Frog heaven. A frog's tongue is fixed at the front of its mouth, which gives it just that little extra reach. This is an enterprising frog. It sets up winter quarters right inside the termite mound. What a way to avoid hunger, cold and dry. Feast or famine, food is a bone of contention, but particularly when there's a good food source. This toad eats as fast as it can, but not fast enough to be able to monopolize the find. A frog's appetite is wide-ranging, but a hairy caterpillar is not an obvious choice. The sand frog may be about to make a painful error of judgment. It isn't likely to make that mistake again. A ladybird has a smooth coat, not a spike in sight, but it's out of reach of even the longest frog tongue. Though it's amazing what a good pair of legs will do. A good jump, but not enough to get the gold. Only the really unpalatable can risk parading so boldly and take liberties. This toad repeat the frog's error. And the winner of this round? Not the toad. The caterpillar. Birds could strip its spines, but frogs and toads lack the usual predator's weapons of beak, fangs or claws. But that doesn't disadvantage them one bit. They can take on prey almost their size. After what it's just gone through, the sand on this worm makes it look suspect. But now the toad seems to realize it can eat this one. But it's taking too long to decide. There's a competitor nearby. The sand frog has made its decision. A hop, a bump, and it seizes the worm. The worm is very nearly as big as the frog, but it's mouth capacity that matters. The toad goes hungry. But the sand frog will be well fed. Amphibians were the first land animals to evolve a voice. They were also the first vertebrates to have an ear, and both are in active use in the mating season. At times like these, humans just hear a bunch of frogs croaking, but frogs hear order in the chaos. Most calls advertise. Interpretation depends on who's listening. Females hear, "Come to me." Rivals hear, "Keep off, this place is mine." If one male invades another's space, calls may become aggressive. females stay silent. They just key in and select, in this case between two males close by. The males in question are dueling over a prime piece of territory to call from. The male in residence doesn't intend to let the competition in. A well-aimed kick on the chin. And to the winner, the spoils. Positioning is everything in the mating season. In parts of Africa's tropics, 25 different frog species may call simultaneously from the same area, competing for airtime. Yet in the confusion of noise, females have no trouble isolating calls from their own males, because they have selective hearing. An inflated vocal sac is a frog's amplifier. Just a few use their surroundings to help, and some even use their own eardrums to broadcast calls. Vocal sacs come in different shapes, single, paired, or bilobed, and small frogs have high-frequency calls, big frogs low. When it calls, a frog fills its lungs with air, closes mouth and nostrils, and shunts the air back and forth over the vocal cords like a bellows. It's at night that the choir really gets going. Here, a female water lily frog listens in to a male broadcasting from his lily pad. Calling is always a toss-up. It might draw the wrong company, predators or other males, and the female's presence soon brings them flocking in, increasing the likelihood of frog warfare. Just the fact that she's there has them all abandoning their own calling sites in favor of this one. Sometimes males grab each other by mistake in the excitement of the moment. A special release call and violence soon sort that one out. Now the first male's calls probably have double meaning: clear off to the males and come on to the female. This is one of the world's largest frogs, and a real bass baritone. Water transmits sound a long way, and the male bullfrogs of southern Africa use this to their advantage. Low or high, rumble or squeak, Africa's frog talk carries meaning that goes right over the head of a mere mortal. The breeding season is a time of male aggression. Bullfrogs spend several months buried beneath shallow pans which regularly dry up. When the rains come, they surface. Being a good dad is not natural for a male frog, but a male bullfrog's different. This dinner-plate-sized father hunkers down in the shallows beside his tadpoles to keep an eye on them. At 20 centimeters long, he's hefty as frogs go, but he'd be unable to stop a heron attacking, for example. And he certainly can't stop internal warfare. In these temporary pans, pressure is intense to reach maturity before the water vanishes. So intense that these tadpoles often eat their own siblings, the ones that didn't make it. The bullfrog father also keeps other males off his territory by calling and body language. If the warnings fail, he attacks. He uses his body like a battering ram. His final weapon is a pair of sharp, bony projections on his lower jaw, and they can draw blood. Victory? Or temporary truce? An outright win. If he'd got through, the other male might have been tempted to go for the tadpoles. Here, where frogs go hungry for months, stocking up matters, and some males even eat tadpoles of their own kind. Herons are a frog's worst nightmare, but smaller enemies use the same tactics of stealth and patience. A water scorpion, a sinister flat submarine armed with powerful grasping pincers. It can breathe through a long tube on its abdomen and so is able to submerge and wait, weapons armed and ready for something the right size. A tadpole, a water scorpion favorite, and the scorpion has seen it. The scorpion plunges a needle-like feeding tube into the tadpole. Slowly it will suck the tadpole's life juices dry, and there will be no frog guardian angel to save it. Enemies are active round the clock. Some of the deadliest hunt by night, and a toad has no way of fighting this one off. It may freeze, but the snouted cobra's highly sensitive forked tongue is tasting scent molecules, and it's recognized the smell of live toad. A change of hiding place does not help the toad. If anything, it's made the cobra's job easier. It's now seen telltale movement. The toad inflates its body to try and make itself too big to swallow. But that's no help against an enemy that can dislocate its jaws to stretch round prey. One down, another one to go. But this frog is in no danger. Its black and red markings signal an excellent defense system. The banded rubber frog is a chemical weapons expert, its skin full of deadly, heart-stopping poison. When the cobra persists, the frog puffs up and stands tall to look more impressive. Even a cobra with its own deadly chemicals can't miss the warnings. Frogs are unsung heroes. They devour mosquitoes and crop pests and contribute to medical research. But now science has discovered something else about them. Because they live in two worlds, land and water, their sensitive skin is doubly susceptible to pollution and subtle environmental change. They are living barometers of world climate change and are some of the jewels of the natural world.
Bonnie,